Good evening and welcome to Healing Quest. I'm Lisa Zaffer and we are here tonight to help you on your path to health. Tonight we're delighted to welcome Margaret Biskowski, a Reiki master who has studied Reiki for 11 years, and she's here to share her knowledge with you tonight. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Lisa.
Now, Margaret, I understand that there are many different forms of Reiki, and you are particularly interested in discussing Usui Reiki. Could you tell us a little bit about
Sure, that's true. Reiki, the term Reiki means universal light force energy, and Usui Reiki is a form of that method. And it originated it's named after a gentleman named Mikao Usui, and he went on a quest for Reiki in the early 1800s, and he had brought it to the United States towards the late 1800s. And so Usui is his last name, and he was the one who developed that particular art form of Reiki, and there are different variations, and that is the particular field that I'd studied.
Okay. And I understand that the chakras are particularly focused on in this. Could you explain a little bit about what the chakras are and how they function in healing?
Sure. Reiki is a universal light force energy, and then you have 7 main chakra points in your body, and each chakra has a specific function and a correlation. For example, you have a crown chakra, a third eye, a throat chakra, heart chakra, a will chakra, and you have a sexual chakra and a root chakra. And each of them are chakras, and they are independent and interdependent in the body. And they have a very specific function. They should be, well, part of the training is learning how to sense a chakra, which is energy. How does one energy can be such a vague term, Part of being trained as a practitioner is sort of learning how to make it tangible. Chakras generally are about 1.5 inches off your body. They should be approximately this large in size, in theory, functioning in a clockwise direction away from the body. Again, they have specific functions. So, for example, the most common thing that I see as a practitioner, you go and you check people's chakras and you're working with that and you're opening it and you want it to be in that sort of ideal mode, which would be, again, this like almost a perfect circle functioning in clockwise direction. If it's contorted in any way, there is a symptom in that particular chakra, and it's related to the spot on the body.
Okay, so how do you work with the chakras as a Reiki master?
You try and manipulate the chakra. You basically try and open it, sense it, and give it your analysis based on it. Based on color, shape, they can indicate what's going on, and, the levels of sickness that the person is dealing with, basically.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you assess a person and how you identify what chakras they need to work with? Okay.
This is, I can only really talk about my experience with this. Generally, what happens is somebody will come into my office and I will talk to them, and I do sort of an interview with the client, the person who's coming to see me, and I don't always work with people that come to see me, because I really believe that your practitioner has to be a good match for the client. It's a relationship that's established. So there's sort of a vibe, and you can tell if you sort of mesh with the person or not, or if the person meshes with me or not. And it's a very sacred process, in my opinion. In most practitioners' Reiki practitioner opinions. So basically you kind of go through an interviewing process just to get a feel, and when I mean interviewing process, the person, you find out why are they coming to see you, what's going on in their life, where are they in their life. You try and get an idea, and if somebody has symptoms, for example, they're complaining about like a lower back, or they have a repetitive injury or chronic pain, an issue that keeps coming up, we steer the conversation, because it's the belief of an energy worker, and it's my belief that a physical symptom is the last thing to occur in the body. You're going to have an energetic symptom before you have a physical symptom, and that's usually the difference between Eastern and Western medicine. And and there's a huge distinction between Eastern and Western medicine. Obviously, like, I'm not an MD. Eastern practitioners are not medical physicians, so I don't guide anyone or pretend to be a medical physician. And that's made pretty clear also from the get-go. But it is our experience that it's usually an emotional or a spiritual ailment that has positioned itself to manifest physically on somebody or take the form of a physical manifestation. It's never alone the physical symptom.
So if someone comes to you before it's manifested as a physical symptom, you could actually alleviate or avoid the development.
Yeah,
that's
that's
really great.
been our experience with it.
Sounds very rewarding. What are the other benefits of Reiki?
Yeah, what are the benefits of it? Benefits of Reiki. But there are so many benefits to getting Reiki done. One of the simplest things, we just talked about sort of extreme examples. One of the basic, simple things, a lot of people do it to relax, to calm, to connect. It's a form of meditating, to connecting with your body. Reiki isn't for everybody, It's for people who are geared towards a mind, body, spirit connection, or the people who are going to come to me or go and seek other practitioners out. It's so you're never really battling with trying to deal with someone's belief system in the sense of, do they lead a spiritual life? Not that that's necessarily prerequisite, but those are the people who seem to be attracted to such healing art forms in some way. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a magic wand and a fix and a cure, it's not for you. Because you're sort of, I'm sorry, there's really no quick fix to problems. Some things can be fixed, more readily available than others. Let's say, like calm. Somebody who's anxiety ridden, that's something that would benefit from that. Somebody that would benefit from getting Reiki done, the soothing energy work. But again, people who are looking for a quick fix, it would not be beneficial. So, and there are some other symptoms that occur. I've had people who've actually reported their symptoms have increased in a negative way. For example, somebody came in, had a fever, a runny nose. Their fever totally spiked that night, but it dissipated the next day. So,
So it gets worse?
It's not necessarily, I've seen it get worse before it's gotten better.
Okay.
So
that's not something to be afraid of?
No, it's not something to be afraid of. And again, if it lasts, I'm not a physician, you should obviously, somebody should go and see their doctor if that continues to happen, but it's not uncommon. So
the effects aren't usually immediate, or does it just depend on the situation? Just want to make
it
sure I
depends on the
understand.
situation.
Okay.
It totally depends. One of the things to sort of dissipate that you're going to get sort of an immediate effect for would be an injury of some kind. It's pretty easy. I've seen great results with people who have injuries. I had a woman who had thrown her back out, and we'd worked on it, and she'd felt immediate relief, by the time the session was done, and it just kind of escalates.
Now,
yes and no. It just depends. It depends on the client.
Okay. So now, is there anything a client can do to prepare themselves for it or to help the treatment be more effective? Or if a client is somewhat resistant or hesitant, does that affect the treatment?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Willingness, to listen to alternative ways of handling a situation is definitely going to improve the situation. Again, somebody who's seeking my services out is generally familiar with what it is that I do. And that, again, it's not always the case. And people just sometimes want to try it just to see if they can feel it or if, what is it like. But for more optimal results for treatment, it's having an open mind to try different ways of going about a situation.
Okay.
And generally, because that's a lot of times what it comes down to is also half of it's counseling, half of it's, body work.
Now, I know you said that the training is quite different than Western training. What kind of qualifications do you have, and what should you look for when you're looking for a Reiki therapist?
That's a great question. I started training when I was a teenager. I trained for 5 years under a woman who is also a Reiki master practitioner. And generally how it goes is that a master has to teach you you know, so you can't, there are 3 levels. And after you get your 3rd level, you have to practice for a while before you can be considered like a master teacher. I studied under for her for several years, and then I had clients or customers that I was seeing, and then she let me know when I was ready to start teaching. But that took about 5 to 7 years before that had happened.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had trained exclusively under her. The tradition is such that I have my certifications, you know, and it's important to know if you have, some states require a minister's license. It just depends where you are.
So do
Yeah.
you currently train other Reiki students
I
who are
do.
not yet masters? Okay. Could
I
you
do.
tell us a little about the different stages and how long it takes to progress?
Sure.
Okay.
How do I train somebody? There are classes that people take, and you have to practice and kind of learn the hand positions and learn what's involved with Reiki, the philosophy, build your intuition, you know, because there are some things that come into play other than, you know, hands-on healing, like extra tools. And then you have to kind of establish your art form, you know, within the guidelines also. And then a master, how do you train as a master? There's symbols involved. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of training involved and a lot of exploring, and it's a personal journey. So there's a lot of work that has to happen. But there are classes and there are degrees that one takes.
Okay.
And to really become, I would say, a good master teacher would be a minimum of 5 years. You know, after seeing people and, you know,
To get the
to get the whole master teacher, because, you know, you really have to apply and integrate your philosophies, and, you know, you receive intuitive direction, and
Right.
you have to be able to channel that and execute that.
So,
So-
could you walk us through a typical session so that we would know what to expect if we were to come to you?
Sure. Again, somebody would come in and we would interview them. I would do a body scan on the person, meaning that I would check how their chakras were functioning, and then I would proceed to go ahead and do body work. Body work being that I would address their feet, and this is my style, and this is sort of a different variation of Reiki, but this is what I've incorporated. I work with feet in terms of reflexology, and I work with a lot of chi
wonderful.
energy, yeah. And then I also check the chakras, and I open them, and then I also do a color therapy because they are color coordinated.
What does that mean?
So each chakra has a corresponding color for its vibration.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of send it to that specific chakra, and you try and open it and clean it and get the energy flowing in the body so it's not stagnant and it's moving and flowing. You want to make sure that like you're rooted, that's like your lower chakra. And again, everything has specific functions. So for example, somebody who's constantly running around scatterbrained, you know, the root function is literally their grounding to the earth. You know, that would, if they were telling me I'm running around all the time, I'm forgetting things, blah, 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 you know, and they were on and on, one of the first places I would go to would be to look at the root chakra, you know, to see if the energy is pulled, is it functioning in the way that it should be functioning.
That's
So,
very
yeah,
interesting.
depending on the information they give me initially, those are the areas that I target first to examine what the issue is.
Okay. And how often should somebody come to you, say they had a physical ailment versus an emotional ailment? Is there a typical regime, or is it?
It totally depends. It
Okay.
totally depends. Sometimes 3 times, sometimes it needs to be 8 times, 9 times, and then I spread it out, you know, to see. A couple times it'll be, you know, every week, and then every 3 weeks, and then I try and spread it out. But I let the person know who comes to see me right away what the treatment plan is, you know, so they can say, this is for me, this is not for